Hello everyone, this is JL Aviation here. Welcome back to another Gemini Jets unboxing, and this time I've got yet another very special model, another very rare one that I got on eBay, and for really cheap actually. I bid on it and it was a really great deal for this model that is also very discontinued. It's of an airline that doesn't exist anymore and an aircraft that rarely flies nowadays. I'm of course talking about the AirTran Boeing 717-200 seen here. Now AirTran is another airline that we lost kind of a bit over 10 years ago. I'm pretty sure, I think 2014 was their last flight as they merged into Southwest. And they operated both 717s and 737s at that time. Their 737s also look really great in their livery, I think, but I also wanted to get my hands on a 717, and it was the cheapest one I could find for the moment. But it's great for my first AirTran model, so let's open it, starting from the bubble wrap it came with. And of course I want to make sure that the box is in good condition as well. Make sure that I don't accidentally hit it with the scissors. And I'll save this for finals week. There we have got, in a great box condition actually, the AirTran Boeing 717-200. The 717, of course, very similar to the McDonnell Douglas MD-80 family, and it was originally known as the MD-95 when first built. And later, when Boeing and McDonnell Douglas merged, this aircraft was coming out, and it stayed with the name Boeing 717 as it kind of hadn't been taken yet. We had a 707, we had a 727, but this one got the 717, and it does look kind of like an outlier on Boeing's fleet, but it's still nice that it was able to get the name, and it kind of makes it a bit unique, makes it stand out among the other MD-80 aircraft. Now here's the usual Gemini Jets box with their regular blue design. Here's the bag with the aircraft kind of in flight, kind of on a steep climb. Their 2009 release, and I've said this before, but a lot of the Gemini Jets molds from the 2000s, I think they were like peak, honestly. They weren't super detailed, but at the same time they're pretty well made, and I think that they just had kind of certain charm to them. That's why I like their models from that era a lot. Here in the inside flap is a brief history of the 717. You can pause if you would like to read. And then the specs on this tail number that the model is based on. Now, many of you might recognize the Alpha Tango on the registration because a lot of the AirTran 717s went to Delta after they merged. So not only does its legacy go into Southwest, but also for as long as Delta operates the 717s, which probably not much longer after 2025, but here is AirTran, another airline that based out of Atlanta with their 717s, and looks beautiful already. I absolutely love this livery. The green, the blue looks great together, those stripes. Yeah, look at it more in depth right now. In great condition too for a model that I bought secondhand as well. I think, you get a lot of great deals, and a lot of time they're very well kept, so thanks to all the sellers that keep their models in very great conditions. And here in all its wonder and glory, the AirTran 717. Let's start with the tail. The letter A I think looks great on the tail, and honestly there's a lot of airlines that have the letter A as their logo, and I always think that it's like the best looking letter to put on a tail, lowercase or uppercase. I can think of airlines such as ABX Air Cargo or Avior, Aero Italia, and of course AirTran right here. I think they really rock the logo very well on their tail. Right below the tail we have these three numbers, 797. I think it might relate to the specific aircraft, and I tried looking it up, but I'm not really sure exactly what it means, so you can tell me in the comments if you know. I'm pretty sure it might relate to the specific aircraft serial number or the order in which it was built, something like that, but you can always correct me or let me know in the comments. Here, the 717's engines, you can see kind of the outline for the reverse thrusts, which of course open during landing. The AirTran.com titles on the blue makes the engines stand out as well. And then the registration, November 986 Alpha Tango, which is still flying for Delta Airlines as of the recording of this video, based in Atlanta, just like AirTran based their 717s out of the same airport as well. Then the emergency exit doors with their blue outline as they lead into the wings. Then the AirTran titles in blue with the red dot in the eye. Adds a little bit of a flair to the logo. I think it's pretty nice. And then, of course, you have the door and then the cockpit windows with the black under there. I think it looks pretty nice. And then right below there, you have the stripe that runs through the entire aircraft, which I think looks super nice as well. The color combination really stands out, you know. I think this airline just had a very unique logo and vibe. And I never got to fly them. I have some friends who did fly them back in the day, but some have told me positive things about it. Some have said that they didn't have the best experiences with AirTran, which is fair. They were more of a low-cost carrier. A lot of people do miss them, and even though I only saw them around when I was little, flying into Orlando, for example, I think they always looked pretty great. Now I'm going to try to get a different view. Here's from the back. You can see there's from the tail. You can still see the green outline, and then both engines from the back. I put in from the front nose. I'm trying to be careful there. There, it looks awesome from here. And then I'm gonna zoom out a little bit and try to show the underside. As always, Gemini Jets logo. Right below it is where you can put the stand if you have one and if you want to display it. Awesome model overall. I really love finally being able to get my hands on an AirTran model. And of course I'm going to display it in my collection with my other US airlines. I do like grouping together the airlines that don't exist anymore. So if you've seen my other videos, I do have a Reno Air model as well. I have a few Skybus, a few Independence Air, a lot of these airlines, which some were well known, some lesser known, but this was one of the more well known ones. And of course, since it's merged to Southwest, they are very missed, but they were still a very influential airline that were around since around the 90s. I know ValueJet, which had a very poor reputation, formed into AirTran, and then they had a great run for about 20 plus years. And of course, they operated this wonderful 717 aircraft that just looks so nice, and very glad to finally have it, be able to have it in my collection, and hopefully at some point when I get my airport rebuilt, I'll have it in my airport as if it's still around, because I don't really care if the airlines don't exist anymore. I always like having them around in my airport. And that's it for this review of the AirTran 717. Hope you all enjoyed looking at it. Let me know if you also have an AirTran 717 model or any other 717 models. It's not my first one. I also have a Volotea 717, which I got like over 10 years ago, and that one's pretty rare as well, but it's one of my favorite that I own. Volotea, a Spanish airline that used to operate the 717 as well, but no longer do, as it's becoming increasingly rare nowadays. And Southwest, for example, they acquired AirTran and decided to not operate the 717, which is make a lot of sense because Southwest is an all 737 airline, but at least the 717s did go on to have a second life at Delta for the most part. And speaking of Delta and Volotea for that matter as well, I do have many trip reports coming up that I'll be posting over the summer, so make sure to stay tuned. I got a lot of new airlines coming up as well, so make sure to stay tuned, subscribe to the channel if you love Gemini jets and any other aircraft models as well, and also airline reviews. Make sure to follow the channel and stay tuned for all my upcoming videos. Overall, this model is excellent and in great condition, so great job to Gemini Jets and of course the seller who owned it previously, who has kept it in a wonderful condition, and I hope to keep it as such for many years to come. This is JL Aviation here signing off with the AirTran 717, and hopefully we can see it in airport updates in the future as well as collection showcases. Have a great rest of your day wherever you're watching from.